Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we are here today learning the Vanguard. Much like I did with my Learning the Titan video, we'll be taking a look at some of the challenges you'll be faced when you start playing the Vanguard class. I'll give you guys some tips and strategies to help you overcome said challenges. We'll be, in general, in a casual and unedited way, talking about progression and getting past that initial barrier for entry with the Vanguard class inside of Lawbreakers. This is definitely one of the more nuanced classes inside of the game. There's a lot to learn here. There's a lot to love once you start to wrap your head around it, but it's kind of difficult to find that groove, to actually get into the learning curve and reach a point where you really do feel like you're progressing and getting better with the class and actually supporting your team regardless of how you decide to play. Now, I would say to start that the Vanguard class definitely has multiple playstyles that can suit it relatively well. To start, when you're first learning the class, I see nothing wrong with using the Hydra, the Gatling gun, the primary weapon of the Vanguard, to simply blanket areas with fire, to be a support role, to lay down suppressive fire and do large-scale chip damage to the enemy team, especially in a game mode like Occupy, where you've got a lot of people trying to saturate one point to take control of it. You can really just spray it down with the Hydra. You can make use of the meteor shells, which are your cluster grenades. Throws out 5 separate micro grenades that can deal up to 200 damage. You can just keep comboing those things, laying down fire, reload, lay down fire, and really suppress an area as if you were a light machine gunner inside of Lawbreakers. Nothing wrong with that playstyle, and I'll constantly transition back from that playstyle to a more aggressive sort of hunter-killer vulture playstyle. Definitely bouncing back and forth. I see that as a very good way to learn the class and to become more comfortable, most importantly, with where the sweet spot or the perfect engagement distance for the Hydra actually is. So let's actually talk a little bit about the Hydra to help you guys better understand how it works and, you know, give you an idea of the numbers essentially behind the gun, so you can figure out where that sweet spot is and maximize your damage output. Now, you've got a 60-round magazine, and of course the Hydra becomes more accurate the longer you fire it, which is definitely a part of your strategy. Spin this thing up early, waste some of that 60-round magazine to make sure that when you do hit your target, you're hitting them with as many of the 3 hit scan projectiles per shot that the Gatling gun is actually going to fire. So you can deal anywhere from 5 to 13 damage with each of those 3 projectiles, depending on range. This, again, is where range engagement is very important. If you're sitting way far back, you're doing chip damage. You're doing at most 5, 10, 15 if you're actually hitting all 3 of those projectiles, which at max range you're probably not, even if the weapon's spooled up all the way. It's not an ideal situation. As you get closer to that sweet spot, medium and close quarters, you'll be able to get up to 13 damage per each shot. So up to 39 damage actually, you know, per fire essentially. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage on target. But again, you are putting yourself at risk by being close as a squishy, so you got to constantly balance back and forth with that. The really important thing, though, to maximizing your damage output with the Hydra is getting your tracking down. You always want to be going center mass with this thing. The Hydra has no headshot capabilities. It's one of the only, or one of the few hit scan weapons in the game that cannot actually headshot its opponents. So just going center mass to maximize the number of those 3 hit scan projectiles per shot that actually hit your target is how you're going to really chew people up. This is why players who are really good with tracking will seem like they just eat you alive with the Vanguard, because they don't miss. All it takes is half an inch deviation of your reticle on the center mass of your target, and you can lose anywhere from 1 to 2 of those 3 hit scan projectiles. That's obviously going to cut your damage output in half or more. So definitely something to consideration, and a big part of getting better with this class is, again, working on your aim with that Hydra. Now, we mentioned the afterburners, the idea of mobility, getting in and out of fights. The afterburners, of course, are great for really hunting down a target, moving in as quickly as you possibly can, rushing them down while spooling up the Hydra to maximize damage. It's something that I've been messing around with. Once you get close, you can start to combo in with your pulsar. This is where, again, fuel consumption is very important. You don't want to use all of your afterburner as you get close to a target and then not have enough to actually finish them off with the pulsar. More importantly, you spam pulsar and now you can't disengage the fight. It's this constant back and forth that you really just have to get used to. You have to build muscle memory. You have to build, honestly, just knowledge of how much damage you can potentially do with any of your abilities at any given time. Now, the Vanguard probably has one of the most satisfying ultimates in the game. It's called Starfall. It allows you to pop up into the air. You're then going to channel the ability for about a second. You cannot manually activate the dive bomb portion of Starfall. So setting yourself up and making sure that the enemy can't scatter away into their hiding spots before you actually dive bomb is very important. Once that happens, you've got the potential to do massive amounts of damage, up to 200 damage, so you can kill multiple targets if they're weak. You're going to create a low gravity zone. I usually like to make sure that I have as much HP as possible when using Starfall, unless I'm using it in a clutch situation to maybe destroy a high value target. Maybe I want to get rid of somebody who just popped an ult. It's a great tool for counter ulting. You know, if you've got a Titan, for example, that ults on the lower spectrum of their health bar, which a lot of Titans will, they'll use it to make themselves stay alive. I do it all the time, right? You're at like 10 HP, let me pop my ult, I'll get up to like 500. You can go ahead, just drop on them. 200 damage right away. You know, hopefully your team will be able to clean it up. You're going to then pop them into a low G zone, which means you can start to work them with your pulsar and with your Gatling gun. You know, in low G, making use of those afterburners, making small adjustments, you really do kind of reign supreme there. You know, you become that vulture, again, with the rocket engine strapped to its ass and the Gatling gun tied to its beak, and you can just start to prey on your enemies if you set yourself up good after you complete a Starfall. Now, there is one really important element of Starfall that you need to know about, because this can either be a really powerful tool in your toolbox, or it can completely screw you over. Starfall, when you activate it, is affected by any momentum you might have been carrying when you activated it. So, for example, if I'm boosting with my afterburner and I pop Starfall, I'm actually going to drift a pretty significant distance for up to like a second. Depending on the speed, I'll drift further. This can be used to set yourself up. You can drift into openings and surprise the enemy with Starfall. So rather than channeling directly above the enemy, you channeled while you were actually flying through the air, carrying that momentum out of the afterburner, and then strike down on them. At the same rate, though, you can potentially accidentally fly into an environment with your afterburners, pop Starfall, forget about the momentum, and drift out of line of sight, at which point you just wasted your ult. So definitely something to practice with. Honestly, the Vanguard, in my opinion, is one of the most important classes to head into the sandbox or custom match with and really work on your movement with the afterburners. Consider how the afterburner, again, affects Starfall. Just get really comfortable with everything. Throw out meteor shells. You know, see how those meteor shells spread the farther away you are, how you can cluster them when you're up close. Take a look at the self-damage that they do to you. There's a lot of numbers to run through here, and a lot of things to become comfortable with when it comes to playing the Vanguard that will help you just better understand the class right from the get-go. So custom matches are your friend with this class. If you guys have any other questions, any other difficulties that you're facing while playing the Vanguard, feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. We'll definitely be doing a more complete guide down the line, but these are the things I've learned as I've started dedicating time to the Vanguard more seriously, and hopefully they'll help you, once again, get past that barrier for entry. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.